I'm going to walk you through this literature review assignment, and I'll be toggling back and forth between the instructions and the sample. We're looking at the sample on the screen right here. And if the video gets too long, I will have to break it in half. So let's see what we can get done here. I'm going to start with the instructions. So the literature review, this is a practice literature review. And your practice literature review should examine 5 to 10 sources. Now, in your final draft of the literature review, the one that actually appears in your proposal essay itself, it will ask for 10 sources. So if you have time, do all 10 sources now. That way, if I sign off on it, all you have to do is paste it into your final version after you fixed any editing errors, of course. If you don't have time, you have other classes, that's fine, it doesn't matter. You at least need to address 5, all right? So for this practice literature review, you can have 5 sources, but if you do all 10, then you'll be ready to just put it into your essay as part of the requirements of the paper. So that's what this 5 to 10 sources is all about. So a literature review examines the literature, the resources that you find on a particular subject. So your literature review should discuss solutions to your identified problem. And the literature review that we're going to look at, the sample, is, let's see, what was she writing on? Her complaint is that students don't take care of their health. The solution is that they should require mandatory classes on health in order to benefit. So that's her solution. All right, let's look back at the instructions again. You should use appropriate primary and secondary sources, and we'll have an activity on primary sources since we haven't really had a chance to talk about that yet. 75% of which should come from the CPCC library databases. You don't have to use ProQuest, you can use any of the databases. And those of you who have been doing the extra credit activities all along, you've been introduced to a lot of different databases, so you might find this a little more comfortable to do than someone who hasn't looked beyond ProQuest before. So 75% means if you have 10 sources, then you know, the majority of them should come from the library, right? Not from the internet. So the first thing you need to make sure of is that your issue is really arguable. We have an activity for that. If you're not seeing any kind of solutions for your problem at all, it could mean that you don't have an arguable issue, so you'll want to look at that again, that activity. Secondarily, what you can do is research solutions to issues that are similar to yours and explain how you could apply them. This is not an annotated bibliography. In your textbook there is a model, and we used the sources from this model before when we worked with introducing sources in APA. So there's a student essay on 279 to 280, which is kind of like a lit review. She's looking at her different sources. I like how she has examined her sources and the comments she makes about them, but that's not exactly what we're doing. All right, she uses quotations, she doesn't have section headings, but that's kind of what we're doing. We'll be spending more time with the sample that I have for you. So the sample literature review and the sample final capstone project, the sample issue proposal from last week, all of that I'm using the same person's work so that you can follow it along. All right, so that's your overall task. Again, if your literature review, your practice one that you're submitting is approved, then you can just go ahead and put it into your paper. If it's not approved or you need to add some more sources to it, do that first before you do so. And I think this is a good place to stop and then do a second video looking at the sample itself.